Okay, let's take a look at our rock cycle diagram here. This is going to be similar to a diagram that's going to be on the test that you're going to be taking tomorrow. So I want you to take a look at the diagram and let's kind of just walk through our diagram here. If you notice that it shows all three of the different rock types. We have igneous, we have sedimentary rock, and metamorphic rock. And if you go through each one of the steps here, these steps follow the arrows. And the arrows go along with the same type of processes that our dice game went through that we did the other day. So let's just take a look. We're going to start here at igneous, and we're going to just trace our way through our diagram here. With igneous rock, what can happen is I can get weathering and erosion, and that will cause it to become sedimentary rock. Also, I can start off here at igneous. I can make it undergo heat and pressure, and it can become a metamorphic rock because of that. So igneous, I can go in any of these directions. Or we could get heating of this, and then heat and pressure, and it can become metamorphic. So that's important to realize that it can go into more than one item. Let's now look at our sedimentary rock and see what can happen. From sedimentary rock, I can undergo heat and pressure, and it can become a metamorphic rock in this diagram. In this diagram, my sedimentary rock, I can get weathering and erosion, and it can make sediments. So please note that this drawing right here goes with that arrow. This wording goes with that arrow. So with sedimentary rocks, I can get weathering and erosion, and it can give me sediments. Here in this diagram, I can get sedimentary rocks under heat and pressure and get metamorphic. Now let's look at our metamorphic rock, which is our third type of rock. What can go on here? I can go from weathering and erosion with my metamorphic, and I can then become and get sediments again. With sediments, I can then undergo compaction and sedimentation to make sedimentary rocks. Please note that this arrow goes along with this information. It's important to distinguish that, or it'll make it harder for the test tomorrow. Also with metamorphic rock, I can get melting, so that it melts into magma, and then it cools again and to give igneous. So let's look at our questions here. It says, list the processes involved in the rock cycle shown in this diagram. Well, let's list the proper processes. We're going to label them. This is A, weathering and erosion. I have B right here, which is compaction and sedimentation. I have C right here, which is heat and pressure. I go back up here to weathering and erosion, so that's a process there. We already named it as A. I go over here and I have another process of melting and cooling. We'll call that D. Melting and cooling, also known as hardening. All right, so that's D. If I start up here at igneous, this process here is heat and pressure. We already said that was C, so we already named that. We have compaction and sedimentation. This one right here is weathering and erosion. We already said that was A. So every single arrow on here I have to have labeled so that I know what all the processes are. All right? What are the rock types shown in this diagram? Well, we labeled them 1, 2, and 3 here, so let's do it again. The first one is igneous. The second rock type is sedimentary. And the third is metamorphic. The rock cycle shown in the diagram shows that each type of rock can do what? It can change forms between different rock types. How are sediments formed in this diagram? So let's first find sediments. They're right here. Looking at our sediments right there, how are they formed? Well, let's follow our arrow down. It goes along with B, and we said that that process is compaction. Actually, it is not that. If we follow our arrow from where these are formed, they are formed by A and A, weathering and erosion, and weathering and erosion. So it's process A, weathering and erosion, which makes sense because if I would have said it was B, I'm going in the opposite direction. I'm actually compacting them and making them into rock. So let's trace the arrows in the diagram and go all the way through. First, I start off with an igneous rock, and with weathering and erosion, I make sediments. Now that I have sediments, I'm going to compact those sediments and cement them together to make sedimentary rock. Once I have the sedimentary rock, I can either have it undergo heat and pressure to make metamorphic, or I can weather and erode that sedimentary rock and make sediments again. Once I'm at metamorphic, if I follow my arrows, I can either weather and erode it to make sediments, or I can melt it into magma, cool and harden it so it makes igneous. Once I'm at igneous, I can heat and pressure it and make it turn into metamorphic rock. Or I can take this igneous where we started before, and I can weather and erode it to make sediments. Please do not think that that means that igneous cannot then become metamorphic. It just does not show that on this diagram. I would review this diagram a few times because it is very similar to a diagram that's going to be on your test tomorrow. Good luck.